Hi everyone, and thank you very much for joining this meeting today. Welcome to the Clinical Trials on Rare Diseases virtual conference. So briefly, just to introduce myself, so my name's Alex Monaghan. I'm Senior Director Client Partnerships at Within3. I've been at Within3 for just over 18 months now, and prior to that, my background is 30 plus years in pharma and in the healthcare agency side. Predominantly in global medcoms. Today, the topic of my presentation is focusing on why clinical teams are now prioritizing hybrid virtual engagement. I think during that 18 months I was talking about since my joining Within3, obviously the global pandemic struck, which has been an interesting journey for all of us. But I think the impact it had on clinical trials was fairly major. I think COVID actually derailed many trials. It's also changed how global teams work together. I think prior to the pandemic, some teams were looking a little bit at virtual engagement, but had a little bit of experimental mindset towards that. However, they quickly learned that actually by combining asynchronous and virtual engagement with live touch points, that could actually provide them with some really valuable tools during these difficult times. I think what it allows you to do is actually improve patient centricity, which I'm going to talk about a bit more, gather more diverse perspectives, and also potentially overcome some budget limitations as well. So quickly, just to introduce Within3 for those that don't know who we are. So Within3 is the industry standard in insights management. I'm going to talk about the insights management platform today. And that has three components, as you can see on this slide here. And today I'm going to focus predominantly on the Connect part, which is in the middle here, because that's probably the tool that most people are familiar with. Also wanted just to briefly let you know that Within3 didn't just pop up during the pandemic. We've been around for over 13 years now. We actually work with all 20 of the top 20 pharma companies. We've had thousands of implementations worldwide over the last 12 to 18 months, and we have users in over 140 different countries worldwide. And the platform gets used with a great variety of different end users, so physicians, allied health professionals, patients, payers, and also internal as well. In terms of where we are a global company headquartered in the USA, but we have staff all over the world. And what that means is that we can actually support you in the right time zone, but also importantly in the right language as well. So as you can see from this slide, we can actually support clients in 15 different languages. So if you want to run a session, for example, in Spanish or Portuguese, we can do that end to end. So all of the content, all of the briefing and training, etc. So again, wherever in the world you're going to run your session, the Within3 team will be there to help and support you. So I said I was going to focus on the Within3 Connect part of the Insights management platform. And that's really two key components. So the first is the Insight Suite. This is generally time limited in nature. So for small group, anything engagement less than a month in duration normally gets used a lot for advisory boards or other advice seeking, or for internal groups, perhaps working collaboratively on documents. For example, if you're preparing a clinical trial protocol or working on some patient materials, perhaps, then it'd probably be the Insight Suite that you'd want to use to do that. The second one is our Collaborative Suite, and this is designed for longer term engagement and community building. So actually many of our clients are working with us now using the Collaborative Suite to build communities of practice, particularly in the rare disease area where it's really, really useful. Particularly where experts are geographically dispersed and perhaps patients and carers are actually finding it difficult to get enough information to get rapid or speedy diagnosis and treatment. So that's the difference in the two platforms. As I say, both are being used now in the rare disease area by many of our clients. Also started at the beginning talking about hybrid engagement. So I just wanted to make sure that we're all talking the same language there. And basically hybrid engagement is where we combine a real-time meeting with virtual engagement. So real-time can be both virtual or in-person face-to-face when we're able to do that. And obviously the Within3 insights management platform, that's an asynchronous platform, an overtime platform, where the work is done at a time that's convenient to the user. So people are working at different times, particularly useful if they're in different geographies, because they can use it at a time that's convenient to them. So just the benefits of the Within3 platform: it's inclusive of all stakeholders. As I say, it recognizes that in these difficult times, perhaps people may not be able to participate at a specific time or in a specific location. So it means everyone can participate at a time that works for them. I think what you will find is also the depth of the response you get using the insights management platform would be greater than you would get from a face-to-face engagement, purely because people have the luxury of time. They have the time to think about the responses before they then answer questions or get involved in discussions. I've talked about language support, and the platform also can translate into over 100 different languages. So particularly useful when we're running patient advisory boards, for example, whereby patients can actually engage in their own language. And perhaps for patients who speak a different language, so using the Translate facility, they can actually converse with each other, share experiences and information. So particularly useful. And I mentioned the fact that we can actually collaboratively work on materials together. The platform also has some tools built in which allow collaboration and co-authoring, and that will work across any of the typical Office type documents, so Word, PowerPoint, Excel, PDF, etc. And as I say, that allows groups to work on materials without having to worry about version control, etc. So again, particularly useful. And also at the end of the use of the platform, you also get a transcript delivered automatically and instantly. So again, there's always a record of everything that's been done on the platform as well. So I started off talking about superior engagement for better clinical trial performance. So what does that mean? Well, I think really what that means for clinical and operations team, our insights management platform will deliver seamless collaboration and communication with all those key people, be that people who are at the actual sites, be that the investigators, be it patients, or as I say, be that internal as well. So the tool is particularly useful and make sure that everyone's informed, educated at the right time. For things like training, it's particularly useful. It can be used to provide on-demand training. It allows your sites to access training and resources at their own schedule. So for example, clinical trial protocols, they're always available. They can be found in one location. Any applicable training for site staff can be run on the platform. And then, of course, ongoing communication around the study as well. And as I said before, obviously, it can be delivered in the appropriate local language, and the global team can still actually monitor feedback and progress as well. This is one way the platform gets used quite typically, and that's for design of trial protocols and materials. And again, it's a fabulous way of collaboratively working. So what you can do is actually co-create or get feedback on documents, materials related to the trial. So working with a disparate group of people, I say, in different geographies, different time zones. The materials are worked on by everyone collaboratively on the same version. So you don't have any issues around version control. And in fact, it's quite spooky when you're working on documents together. You can actually see changes being made real time. So it is a living working document. And as I said before, basically all standard formats of documents can be supported. So you don't have to worry about any particular format of document. And obviously it's key that we engage everyone who's involved in the clinical trial. So be they patients, payers, investigators, or site staff. And again, involving them from the outset in actually designing a clinical trial and then executing it. Obviously, that's a very valuable way of ensuring that you don't waste time, money, and that the trial itself concludes on schedule as well. Obviously, the data that generates is absolutely invaluable. So anything that makes that process as smooth as possible obviously adds value to the process. As I said, also, the resources are available 24/7, 365. So again, people can dip in and out at a time that's convenient to them. It doesn't matter if they're in a different time zone, they can access whenever. The platform doesn't require any software to be downloaded. It doesn't require any app. So you can access it from any mobile device that's internet enabled. Doesn't matter if it's a mobile phone, doesn't matter if it's a desktop PC or Mac, and it doesn't matter if it's a tablet device. And what we find is actually users will actually use multiple devices at different times of the day, typically using the mobile phone in the morning just to see what's gone on, perhaps during the night their time. Then perhaps if they're in the office, using their desktop computer during the day. And then the evening when they're relaxing at home, frequently we see people dipping in, normally on a tablet device, when they're sitting there having coffee or watching TV at home. And the key thing is that it's not just the software we actually provide all of the training support, literally from kickoff through to the closing call, and providing you with all of the materials at the end of the project. Now, we talk a lot about patient centricity, and I've been in pharma for a long time, and we've talked a lot about patient centricity all of that time. However, using the Within3 insights management platform, you can truly take a patient-centric approach. You can truly involve the patient from start to finish. So what you can do is obviously involve the patient at the outset, and basically track your progress throughout against the defined KPIs, and look at the return on the investment you're going to get. The platform, as I say, can harness both digital and data analytics to engage patients, improve the patient experience throughout, and more importantly, collect data on outcomes and any unmet needs as well. And it allows you to collaborate more deeply and learn more from other industries, because actually, as pharma, we think we're quite advanced, but actually at times we're perhaps a little behind the 8 ball compared to some other industries. So I think this is our opportunity now to actually perhaps be truly patient-centric and actually involve them from the outset. Now, in terms of patient centricity, there's a number of ways the platform's been used by our clients. Back in my days working at Quintiles, recruitment and retention was obviously a key metric that we looked at. It's very difficult to recruit patients initially, and then it's difficult to keep them engaged in the study throughout. So why not actually engage with your patients, get them to help you design the clinical trial design, actually use the platform to keep them informed and engaged duration of the study, because obviously, as we've said, the data is vital. If you're trying to get a publication out at the end and you're trying to get meaningful results, keeping people engaged throughout the whole clinical study is absolutely vital. Also, you can actually reduce the cycle time. So by incorporating patient input, what you can actually do is get your trial up and running quicker. And again, that has multiple benefits, cost being one, obviously timed completion being another, through things like perhaps fewer protocol amendments. So again, something which is well worthwhile. And also you can actually involve your patients to actually help you identify key outcomes for the patient as well. So perhaps the patient will have more of a perspective and insight to help define what the trial outcomes should look like. And then very, very importantly, I think the final thing here is patient satisfaction. Again, I think patients want to be listened to, they want to be heard, they want their perspective to be known. And therefore, as I say, what you can do is use the insights management platform to collect and implement patient insights to improve their experience, and also perhaps use that to guide your future clinical trials as well. Now, as I say, we have a couple of case studies that these are real but anonymized case studies. So the first one I wanted to look at today was actually looking at a patient clinical trial website. And this particular client wanted to gain feedback about their site. And this was in the area of oncology. So the challenge here, of course, is that patient advisors were less able to travel, less able to meet in person, and that was just normal even pre-COVID. And the company wanted feedback to begin improving the website, and they wanted that feedback quickly. So what they did was actually set up a virtual patient advisory board using the Within3 platform. There were 7 advisors, a couple of moderators. There were 13 questions in total. And basically what they then did is use that feedback to make immediate short-term improvements to the website, as well as making sure they incorporated in their future plans and updates as well. And again, in terms of the advisors, the participants, the patients themselves, literally 100% of them said that they would participate in a future virtual advisory board. And again, that's the typical feedback we get from patients. They do like engaging this way. In fact, one of my former colleagues now basically looks after patient recruitment management at a major pharma company. And having run her first virtual advisory board, she actually sent me a quick email saying that she was never going to do a face-to-face meeting ever again. That might be a bit of a stretch, but it certainly is effective and certainly works. Now, importantly, this is another case study as well. So in this case, a clinical operations team wanted to find a way to make sure that all of the phase 1 to 3 clinical trial stakeholders had access to critical resources. So what they wanted to do was engage both physicians and nurse KOLs, and this was throughout the US, to obtain their insights and perspective on a clinical trial design. And specifically, the team wanted to assess their ability to successfully use a drug in low acuity settings, as this had previously only been prescribed in high acuity settings. So what were the challenges they faced? Well, there was a number of different challenges around getting sufficient feedback from the KOLs. The first and foremost was actually finding the time, though, for both physicians and nurses who were in different time zones, had different conflicts in their schedules, but bringing those guys together for discussion was actually quite difficult. There was also concern over influence. And again, this is quite often the case we see, whereby you bring groups of perhaps physicians and nurses together, and the nurses actually may defer to the physicians. They may not actually speak up. So that was certainly the case here, and the client had concerns that that might happen. And the final thing here was actually that they had a tight deadline, and they basically needed to proceed with the trial quite quickly. So what they did is they executed advisory board in weeks, obviously because they were able to do that virtually. They didn't need to bring people together. They gathered 36 pages of insight, which is quite a lot of detail, as I say, and that actually influenced the clinical trial design. And namely what that was that the proposed BMI limit for study participants needed to be increased, and also that our suggested patient transfer protocol was too complex for the nurses to follow in reality, so that needed to be shortened. And as you can see here, they actually used different rooms for both the nurses and the physician KOLs, so that allowed everyone to have equal share of voice, basically. The final case study, and again, there are many different case studies in terms of the use of the Within 3 Insights Management platform in clinical trials. They're available from our website, or drop me an email after this meeting, and I'll happily provide them for you. And in this case, basically, this clinical team wanted to engage with global payers, again, in clinical trial design. So this was to design a clinical trial for a new combination therapy in the rare disease area. And basically life expectancy was only a year in this particular rare disease area. So compared to existing first-time treatment, the combination treatment was expected to reduce the incidence of relapse and improve quality of life for patients. However, it was unlikely to improve life expectancy. And obviously this is a key consideration for payers, difficult to justify from a cost perspective. So the company needs to understand how payers would actually consider the quality of life in this disease area, and where this new treatment might be placed in formularies. So what they did was basically, again, the group was based all over the world, made travel to a central location both expensive and very difficult to manage with busy and conflicting schedules. And also there was a language thing here as well, whereby several different languages were spoken. So again, that really meant that actually virtual was the only way forward to actually get the feedback in a timely manner. So what they did is they used the Within 3 virtual insights management platform. And that basically allowed the payers to meet over a period of several days. The payers were able to add their own thoughts and contribute to the conversation discussion, whenever it was convenient for them to do so. They used the translation facilities again, so there was no translation and no language barriers. And also the moderators were able to use the built-in tools just to encourage people to fully contribute as well. So this particular session was over 21 days. There were 14 different advisors from global payer groups, and there were 2 moderators from the pharmaceutical company clinical team. So there was lots of time over the 21 days for private discussions between the moderators and the advisors, and obviously lots of time for inclusive discussion as well. So what were the results of this particular session? Well, I think the key things to take away from this were that first, the team achieved its goals. They did gather a lot of input for evaluating the new treatment from the point of view of the insurers and payers. They confirmed the endpoints for the upcoming trial, and also they're able to justify the economic viability for the new treatment. So obviously that was a major result. I say lots and lots of case studies available, and we don't really have time to go into those today. So what I'm going to do now is just quickly summarize why the Within3 Insights Management Platform is a tool that you should consider, not necessarily in isolation, but perhaps in combination with live virtual meetings to give you that hybrid approach. Diversity is the first thing. You can actually have lots of people around your table, lots of different groups, as you've seen from the case studies I spoke about today, payers, internal clients at pharma companies, patients themselves, obviously. And it's very inclusive. With the language capabilities of the platform, you can obviously get people to get engaged in discussions who perhaps are not able to do so before. We haven't spoken about sustainability, but again, no, the CO2 and emissions part, obviously there is no carbon impact of flying people around the world using the virtual approach. So again, that may be something that's worth considering. And obviously, no, time is a key factor. If you need to gather people together in a timely manner, then this is a really effective way of doing that. Work-life balance, as you've seen from the examples, it allows people to contribute at a time that's convenient to them. And it is truly global, anyone, anywhere, at any time. And hopefully the one thing that's come across today from our presentation is that by using the platform, you really can listen to the patient's voice as well. And I would say that this should actually be our key goal going forward, to actually involve patients more. So just in summary from me, hopefully what I've demonstrated today, that the Within3 Insights Management Platform can help you improve clinical trial execution. I've showed you a couple of examples of that. It can reduce your logistical headaches, allows you to quickly bring disparate groups of people together, disparate in terms of perhaps the nature of the group or from a geography point of view. And more importantly, what I think it will do is actually allow you to make smarter decisions. So again, whoever the key people you need to communicate with, gain insight from, you can do that through the platform itself. So that's the conclusion of my presentation. I'm going to finish now, and hopefully there'll be some questions in the Q&A session. So thank you very much indeed for joining today. It's been a pleasure to present to you. If you would like to have any more information on case studies, please don't hesitate to email me or, as I say, interact with me during the Q&A session.